Hello, forever friends and family. I would like to welcome everybody to our webinar number 1, Think and Grow Rich, the book written by Napoleon Hill. My name is Alex Trunitsky, and I am the organizer of this webinar. I'm very excited that we are going to start a very new journey, and it will be a big journey. We will have a lot of skills, knowledge, and encouragement to improve our lives. And before we start to read this book, I would like to share with you a short video about this book. And this video done by none other than Bob Proctor. Hold on for a second, please. And I would like to ask my friend and partner, Isaac Ilbinovic, please confirm what do you see on the screen, please?
I see the man in the hat.
Very good. And before I do that, I also would like to ask my friend and partner, supervisor from Brooklyn, Isaac Gilbinoich, to share his knowledge about author of this video, Bob Proctor, legend Bob Proctor. Isaac, please go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. Robert Corlett Proctor, born July 5th, 1934, and died February 3rd, 2022, was a Canadian self-help author and lecturer. He was best known for his New York Times best-selling book, You Were Born Rich, from 1984, and being a contributor to the film The Secret from 2006. Proctor's teaching maintained the idea that a positive self-image is critical for obtaining success, frequently referencing the law of attraction. The law of attraction is based on positive self-image, positive thoughts, and is the foundation for a positive action. Back to you, Alex.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for this information. Please confirm when I start to play this video that sound is okay. Let's watch this short, very short, but very powerful video about the book and author.
That's a picture of Andrew Carnegie.
Sound is okay.
He is the man that coached or mentored Napoleon Hill. That's Napoleon Hill when he was a young reporter working for a magazine. The magazine decided that they were going to write articles on wealth. Hill got the opportunity to spend 3 hours interviewing Andrew Carnegie. I've often thought of this. I wonder how nervous he would be, how intimidated he would be. He was broke. And here he is sitting down with the wealthiest man in the world at the time. Andrew Carnegie was considered the first billionaire. And he spent 3 days with him. Now, unbeknownst to Napoleon Hill, Andrew Carnegie was looking for people. He was looking for a person. Carnegie said he thought it was an absolute crime that people like himself, like Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Harvey Firestone, and all these people who had amassed great fortunes, he thought it was an absolute crime they were going to their grave with all this knowledge locked up in their bones. He was looking for someone that would organize this information so that people like you and I could learn it. About halfway through, or towards the end of the interview, he thought maybe Hill was the guy he was looking for because he hadn't found anybody yet. So at the end of the interview, he said, Napoleon, this interview isn't ending, it's just beginning. I want you to come home with me. And he took him home. They spent 3 days together. At the end of the 3 days, he said, Napoleon, I'm going to ask you a question, and I just want a yes or no answer. He said, are you prepared to dedicate the rest of your life to an idea for which you will probably receive no material compensation for at least 20 years? What he didn't tell Hill, he had a stopwatch in his hand, and he only gave him 60 seconds to answer the question. In 25 seconds, Hill said, yes, I will. Now, he said, I want you to go out and gather information. I will give you letters of introduction. Paul was very, very successful. He became intimate friends with Edison and Ford. like I'm just explaining, and I want you to put it together in an organized manner so that anyone can do what I've done. Now I'm going to tell you something. So far as I've been able to determine, Carnegie made maybe 50 millionaires. Napoleon Hill's made millions of millionaires. I hope you enjoyed this video.
I hope you enjoyed this video too, right? And we are going to start to read this wonderful book right now. Give me a second. I'm going to switch the screen. So there is a cover of the book right here up front of you. Think and Grow Rich, written by Napoleon Hill. And let's start to read it. I would like to ask to read this book my friend and partner, Isaac Gelbinovich. Isaac, please go ahead.
Forward. What do you want most? Is it money, fame, power, contentment, personality, peace of mind, happiness? The 13 steps to riches described in this book offer the shortest dependable philosophy of individual achievement ever presented for the benefit of the man or woman who is searching for a definite goal in life. Before beginning the book, you will profit greatly if you recognize the fact that the book was not written to entertain. You cannot digest the content properly in a week or a month. After reading the book thoroughly, Mr. Miller Reese Hutchison, naturally known consulting engineer and longtime associate of Thomas A. Edison, said, "This is not a novel. It is a textbook on individual achievement that came directly from the experiences of hundreds of America's most successful men. It should be studied, digested, and meditated upon. No more than one chapter should be read in a single night. The reader should underline the sentences which impress him most. Later, he should go back to these marked lines and read them again. A real student will not merely read this book. He will absorb its content and make them his own. This book should be adopted by all high schools, and no boy or girl should be permitted to graduate without having satisfactorily passed an examination on it. This philosophy will not take the place of the subjects taught in schools, but it will enable one to organize and apply the knowledge acquired and convert it into useful service and adequate compensation without waste of time." Dr. John R. Turn, Dean of the College of City University, after having read this book, said, "The very best example of the soundness of this philosophy is my own son."
I'm sorry, is your own son.
The very best example of the soundness of this philosophy is your own son. Braille, whose dramatic story you have outlined in the chapter on desire. Dr. Turner had reference to the author's son who, born without normal hearing capacity, not only avoided becoming a deaf mute, but actually converted his handicap into a priceless asset by applying the philosophy here described. After reading the story, you will realize that you are about to come into possession of a philosophy which can be transmuted into material wealth or serve as readily to bring you peace of mind, understanding, spiritual harmony, and in some instances, as in the case of the author's son, it can help you master physical afflictions. The author discovered, through personally analyzed hundreds of successful men, that all of them followed the habit of exchanging ideas through what it commonly called conferences. When they had problems to be solved, they sat down together and talked freely until they discovered from their joint contribution of ideas a plan that would serve their purpose. You who read this book will get most out of it by putting into practice the mastermind principle described in the book. This you can do, as others are doing so successfully, by forming a study club consisting of any desired number of people who are friendly and harmonious. The club should have a meeting at regular periods, as often as once each week. The procedure should consist of reading one chapter of the book at each meeting, after which the contents of the chapter should be freely discussed by all members. Each member should make notes, putting down all ideas of his own inspired by the discussion. Each member should carefully read and analyze each chapter several days prior to its open reading and join discussion in the club. The reading at the club should be done by someone who reads well and understands how to put color and feeling into the lines. By following this plan, every reader will get from its pages not only the sum total of the best knowledge organized from the experience of hundreds of successful men, but more importantly, by far, he will tap new sources of knowledge in his own mind, as well as acquire knowledge of priceless value from every other person present. If you follow this plan persistently, you will be almost certain to uncover and appropriate the secret formula by which Andrew Carnegie acquired his huge fortune, as referred to in the author's introduction. Tributes to the author from great American leaders. Think and Grow Rich was 25 years in the making. It is Napoleon Hill's newest book based upon his famous law of success philosophy. His work and writings have been praised by great leaders in finance, education, politics, government. Dear Mr. Hill, I have now had an opportunity to finish reading your Law of Success textbooks, and I wish to express my appreciation of the splendid work you have done in the organization of this philosophy. It would be helpful if every politician in the country would assimilate and apply the 17 principles upon which your lessons are based. It contains some very fine material which every leader in every walk of life should understand. I'm happy to have had the privilege of rendering you some slight measure of help in the organization of this splendid course of common sense philosophy. Sincerely yours, former President and former Chief Justice of the United States, Supreme Court of the United States, Washington, D.C. By applying many of the 17 fundamentals of the Law of Success philosophy, we have built a great chain of successful stories. I presume it would be no exaggeration of fact if I said that the Woolworth Building might properly be called a monument to the soundness of these principles. F.W. Woolworth, king of the 5 and 10 cent stores. I feel greatly indebted to the privilege of reading your Law of Success. If I had had this philosophy 50 years ago, I suppose I could have accomplished all that I have done in less than half the time. I sincerely hope the world will discover and reward you. Robert Dollar, a great steamship magnate. Mastery of the Law of Success philosophy is the equivalent of an insurance policy against failure. Samuel Gompher, famous American labor leader. May I not congratulate you on your persistence. Any man who devoted that much time must of necessity make discoveries of great value to others. I'm deeply impressed by your interpretation of the mastermind principles which you have so clearly described. Woodrow Wilson, a former president of the United States. I know that your 17 fundamentals of success are sound because I have been applying them in my business for more than 30 years. John Wanamaker, a merchant prince. I know that you are doing a world of good with your law of success. I would not care to set a monetary value on this training because it brings to the students qualities which cannot be measured by money alone. George Eastman, world's largest maker of cameras. Whatever success I may have attained, I owe entirely to the application of your 17 fundamental principles of the law of success. I believe I have the honor of being your first student. W.M. Ringler Jr., a nationally known business chief. Publisher's preface. This book conveys the experience of more than 500 men of great wealth who began at scratch with nothing to give in return for riches except thoughts, ideas, and organized plans. Here you have the entire philosophy of money making, just as it was organized from the actual achievements of the most successful men I know to the American people during the past 50 years. It describes what to do, also how to do it. It presents complete instructions on how to sell your personal services. It provides you with a perfect system of self-analysis that will readily disclose what was been standing between you and the big money in the past. It describes the famous Andrew Carnegie formula of personal achievement by which he accumulated hundreds of millions of dollars for himself and made no fewer than a score of millionaires of men to whom he taught his secret. Perhaps you do not need all that is to be found in this book. No one of the 500 men from whose experience it was written did. But you may need one idea, plan, or suggestion to start you toward your goal. Somewhere in the book, you will find this needed stimulus. The book was inspired by Andrew Carnegie after he had made his millions and retired. It was written by men to whom Carnegie disclosed the astounding secrets of his riches. The same men to whom the 500 wealthy men revealed the sources of their riches. In this volume will be found the 13 principles of money making essential to every person who accumulates sufficient money to guarantee financial independence. It is estimated that the research which went into the preparation before the book was written, or could be written, research covering more than 25 years of continuous effort could not be duplicated at a cost of less than $100,000. Moreover, the knowledge contained in the book never can be duplicated at any cost, for the reason that more than half of the 500 men who supply the information it brings have passed on. Riches cannot always be measured in money. Money and material things are essential for freedom of body and mind, but there are some who will feel that the greatest of all riches can be evaluated only in terms of lasting friendships, harmonious family relationships, sympathy and understanding between business associates, and introspective harmony, which brings one peace of mind measurable only in spiritual values. All who read, understand, and apply this philosophy will be better prepared to attack. I'm sorry. All who read, understand, and apply this philosophy will be better prepared to attract and enjoy these higher estates, which always have been and always will be denied to all except those who are ready for them. Be prepared, therefore, when you explore yourself, when you expose yourself to the influence of this philosophy, to experience a changed life, which may help you not only to negotiate your way through life with harmony and understanding, but also to prepare you for the accumulation of material riches in abundance. The publisher.
Isaac, thank you very, very much for your reading. Please take a break, and I would like to ask continue to read. Friend and partner from New Jersey, the most reliable manager, Iris Christabel. Iris, please go ahead.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Isaac. Author's Preface. In every chapter of this book, mention has been made with the money-making secret which has made fortunes for more than 500 exceedingly wealthy men whom I have carefully analyzed over a long period of years. The secret was brought to my attention by Andrew Carnegie more than a quarter of a century ago. The canny, lovable old Scotsman carelessly tossed into my mind when I was but a boy. Then he sat back in his chair with a merry twinkle in his eyes and watched carefully to see if I had brains enough to understand the full significance of what he had said to me. When he saw that I had grasped the idea, he asked if I would be willing to spend 20 years or more preparing myself to take it to the world, to men and women who, without the secret, might go through life as failures. I said I would, and with Mr. Carnegie's cooperation, I have kept my promise. This book contains a secret after having been put to a practical test by thousands of people in almost every walk of life. It was Mr. Carnegie's idea that the magic formula, which gave him a stupendous fortune, ought to be placed within the reach of people who do not have time to investigate how men make money. And it was his hope that I might test and demonstrate the soundness of the formula through the experience of men and women in every calling. He believed the formula should be taught in all public schools and colleges, and expressed the opinion that if it were properly taught, it would so revolutionize the entire educational system that the time spent in school could be reduced to less than half. His experience with Charles M. Schwab and other young men of Mr. Schwab type convinced Mr. Carnegie that much of that which is taught in school is of no value whatsoever in connection with the business of earning a living or accumulating riches. He had arrived at this decision because he had taken to his business one young man after another, many of them with but little schooling, and by coaching them in the use of this formula, developed in them rare leadership. Moreover, his coaching made fortunes for every one of them who followed his instructions. In the chapter of Faith, you will read the astounding story of the organization of the giant United States Steel Corporation as it 1213 was conceived and carried out by one of the young men through Mr. Carnegie proved that his formula will work for all who are ready for it. This single application of the secret by that young man, Charles M. Schwab, made him a fortune in both money and opportunity. Roughly speaking, this particular application of formula was worth $600 million. These facts, and they are facts well known to almost everyone who knew Mr. Carnegie, give you a fair idea of what the reading of this book may bring to you, provided you know what it is that you want. Even before it had undergone 20 years of practical testing, the secret was passed on to more than 100,000 men and women who have used it for their personal benefit, as Mr. Carnegie planned that they should. Some have made fortunes with it. Others have used it successfully in creating harmony in their homes. A clergyman used it effectively that it brought him an income of upwards of $75,000 a year. Arthur Nash, a Cincinnati tailor, used his near bankrupt business as a guinea pig on which to test the formula. The business came to life and made a fortune for its owners. It is still thriving, although Mr. Nash is gone. The experiment was so unique that newspapers and magazines gave it more than $1 million worth of laudatory publicity. The secret was passed on to Stuart Austin Weir of Dallas, Texas. He was ready for it, so ready that he gave us his profession and studied law. Did he succeed? That story is told too. I gave the secret to Jennings Randolph the day he graduated from college, and he has used it so successfully that he is now serving his third term as a member of Congress, with an excellent opportunity to keep on using it until he carries him to the White House. While serving as advertising manager of the La Salle Extension University, when it was little more than a name, I had the privilege of seeing J.G. Chaplin, president of the university, use the formula so effectively that he has since made the La Salle one of the great extension schools of the country. The secret to which I refer has been mentioned no fewer than 100 times throughout this book. It has not been directly named, for it seems to work more successfully when it is merely uncovered in left and in sight, where those who are ready and searching for it may pick it up. That is why Mr. Carnegie tossed it to me so quietly, without giving me its specific name. If you're ready to put it to use, you will recognize this secret at least once in every chapter. I wish I might feel privileged to tell you how you will know it if you are ready, but that would deprive you of the much of the benefit you will receive when you make the discovery on your own way. While this book was being written, my own son, who was then finishing the last year of his college work, picked up the manuscript of chapter 2, read it, and discovered the secret for himself. He used the information so effectively that he went directly into a responsible position at the beginning salary greater than the average man ever earns. His story has been briefly described in chapter 2. When you read it, perhaps you will dismiss any feelings you may have had at the beginning of the book that it promised too much. And 2, if you have ever been discouraged, if you had difficulties to surmount which took the very soul out of you, if you have tried and failed, if you're ever handicapped by illness or physical affliction, This story, my son's discovery and use of the Carnegie formula, may prove to be the oasis in the desert of lost hope, for which you have been searching. This secret was extensively used by President Woodrow Wilson during the World War. It was passed on to every soldier who fought in the war, carefully wrapped in the training received before going to the front. President Wilson told me it was a strong factor in raising the funds needed for the war. More than 20 years ago, Honor Manuel L. Quezon, then resident commissioner of the Philippine Islands, was inspired by the secret to gain freedom for his people. He has gained freedom from the Philippines and is first president of the Free State. A peculiar thing about this secret is that those who once acquire it and use it find themselves literally swept on to success, but with but little effort, and they never again submit to failure. If you doubt this, study the names of those who have used it. Wherever they have been mentioned, check the record for yourself and be convinced. There is no such thing as something or nothing. The secret to which I refer cannot be had without a price, although the price is far less than its value. It cannot be had at any price by those who are not intentionally searching for it. It cannot be given away. It cannot be purchased for money, for the reason that it comes in two parts. One part is already in possession of those who are ready for it. The secret serves equally well all who are ready for it. Education has nothing to do with it. Long before I was born, the secret had found its way into the possession of Thomas A. Edison, and he used it so intelligently that he became the world's leading inventor, although he had but 3 months of schooling. The secret was passed on to a business associate of Mr. Edison. He used it so effectively that although he was then making only $12,000 a year, he accumulated a great fortune and retired from active business while still a young man. You will find this story at the beginning of the first chapter. It should convince you that riches are not beyond your reach, that you can still be what you wish to be, that money, fame, recognition, and happiness can all be had by those who are ready and determined to have these blessings. How do I know these things? You should have the answer before you finish this book. You may find it in the very first chapter or on the last page. While I was performing the 20-year task of research, which I had undertaken under Mr. Carnegie's request, I analyzed hundreds of well-known men, many of whom I admitted that they had accumulated their vast fortunes through the aid of the Carnegie secret. Among these men were Henry Ford, William Wrigley Jr., John Wanamaker, James J. Hill, George S. Parker, E. M. Statler, Henry L. Doherty, Cyrus H. K. Curtis, George Eastman, Theodore Roosevelt, John W. Davis, Elbert Hubbard, Wilbur Wright, William Jennings Bryan, Dr. Dimitid Starr Jordan, J. Ogden Armour, Charles M. Schwab, Harris F. Williams, Dr. Frank Gonzalez, Daniel Willard, King Gillette, Ralph A. Wicks, Judge Daniel T. Wright, John D. Rockefeller, Thomas A. Edison, Frank A. Vanderlip, F. W. Woolworth, Colonel Robert A. Dollar, Edward A. Filene, Edward C. Barnes, Arthur Brisbane, Woodrow Wilson, W. M. Howard Taft, Durer Burbank, Edward W. Bok, Frank A. Munsey, Albert H. Gary, Dr. Alexander Graham Bell, John H. Patterson, Julius Rosenwald, Stuart Austin Weir, Dr. Frank Crane, George M. Alexander, J. G. Chaplin, on Joanne Jennings Randolph, Arthur Nash, Clarence Darrow. These names represent but a small...
Iris, excuse me. Thank you for your reading. Please take a break. Thank you again, and I would like to ask continue to read. Friend and partner, assistant supervisor from Brooklyn, Zoya Sergey. Zoya, please go ahead. Thank you, Iris, again.
Good evening, everyone. Isaac and Iris, thank you so much for your expressive, colorful reading. These names represent but a small fraction of the hundreds of well-known Americans whose achievements, financially and otherwise, prove that those who understand and apply the Carnegie secret reach high stations in life. I have never known anyone who was inspired to use the secret, who did not achieve noteworthy success in his chosen calling. I have never known any person to distinguish himself or to accumulate riches of any consequence without possession of the secret. From these two facts, I draw the conclusion that the secret is more important as a part of the knowledge essential for self-determination than any which one receives through what is popularly known as education. What is education, anyway? This has been answered in full detail. As far as schooling is concerned, many of these men had very little. John Wanamaker once told me that what little schooling he had, he acquired in very much the same manner as a modern locomotive takes on water by scooping it up as it runs. Henry Ford never reached high school, let alone college. I'm not attempting to minimize the value of schooling, but I'm trying to express my earnest belief that those who master and apply the secret will reach high stations, accumulate riches, and bargain with life on their own terms, even if their schooling has been meager. Somewhere, as you read, the secret to which I refer will jump from the page and stand boldly before you, if you're ready for it. When it appears, you will recognize it, whether you receive the sign in the first or the last chapter. Stop for a moment when it presents itself and turn down a glass, for that occasion will mark the most important turning point of your life. We pass now to chapter 1 and to the story of my very dear friend, who has generously acknowledged having seen the mystic sign and whose business achievements are evidence enough that he turned down a glass. As you read his story and the others, remember that they deal with the important problems of life, such as all men experience. The problems arising from one's endeavor to earn a living, to find hope, courage, contentment, and peace of mind, to accumulate riches, and to enjoy freedom of body and spirit. Remember, too, as you go through the book, that it deals with facts and not with fiction, its purpose being to convey a great universal truth through which all who are ready may learn not only what to do, but also how to do, and receive as well the needed stimulus to make a start. As a final word of preparation, before you begin the first chapter, may I offer one brief suggestion which may provide a clue by which the Carnegie secret may be recognized? It is this: all achievement, all earned riches have their beginning in an idea. If you're ready for the secret, you already possess 17, 18, half of it. Therefore, you will readily recognize the other half of the moment it reaches your mind. The author. Introduction. The man who thought his way into partnership with Thomas A. Edison. Truly, thoughts are things, and powerful things at that, when they're mixed with definiteness of purpose, persistence, and a burning desire for their translation into riches or other material objects. A little more than 30 years ago, Edwin C. Barnes discovered how true it is that men really do think and grow rich. His discovery did not come about at one sitting. He came little by little, beginning with a burning desire to become a business associate of the great Edison. One of the chief characteristics of Barnes' desire was that it was definite. He wanted to work with Edison, not for him. Observe carefully the description of how he went about translating his desire into reality, and you will have a better understanding of the 13 principles which lead to riches. When this desire or impulse of thought first flashed into his mind, he was in no position to act upon it. Two difficulties stood in his way.
Zoe, I'm sorry for interruption. Please correct microphone. Sound is not really clear for some reasons. Okay, much better. Thank you.
When this desire or impulse of thought first flashed into his mind, he was in no position to act upon it. Two difficulties stood in his way. He did not know Mr. Edison. He did not have enough money to pay his railroad fare to Orange, New Jersey. These difficulties were sufficient to have discouraged the majority of men from making any attempt to carry out the desire. But his was no ordinary desire. He was so determined to find a way to carry out his desire that he finally decided to travel by blind baggage rather than be defeated. To the uninitiated, this means that he went to East Orange on freight train. He presented himself at Mr. Edison laboratory and announced he had come to go into business with the inventor. And speaking of the first meeting between Barnes and Edison, years later, Mr. Edison said, "He stood there before me looking like an ordinary tramp, but there was something in the expression of his face which conveyed the impression that he was determined to get what he had come after." I had learned from years of experience with men that when a man really desires a thing so deeply that he is willing to stake his entire figure on a single turn of a wheel in order to get it, he is sure to win. I gave him the opportunity he asked for because I saw he had made up his mind to stand by until he succeeded. Subsequent events proved that no mistake was made. Just what young Barnes said to Mr. Edison on that occasion was far less important than that which he thought. Edison himself said so. It could not have been the young man's appearance which got him his start in the Edison office, for that was definitely against him. It was what he thought that counted. If the significance of this statement could be conveyed to every person who reads it, there would be no need for a reminder of this book. Barnes did not get his partnership with Edison on his first interview. He did get a chance to work in the Edison offices at a very nominal wage, doing work that was unimportant to Edison, but most important to Barnes, because it gave him an opportunity to display his merchandise where he intended partner could see it. Months went by. Apparently, nothing happened to bring the coveted goal which Barnes had set up in his mind as his definite major purpose. But something important was happening in Barnes' mind. He was constantly intensifying his desire to become the business associate of Edison. Psychologists have have correctly said that when one is truly ready for a thing, he puts in its appearance. Barnes was ready for a business association with Edison. Moreover, he was determined to remain ready until he got that which he was seeking. He did not say to himself, "Oh, well, what's the use? I guess I'll change my mind and try for a salesman job." But he did say, "I came here to go into business with Edison, and I'll accomplish this end if it takes the remainder of my life." He meant it. What a different story men would have to tell if only they would adopt a definite purpose and stand by that purpose until it had time to become an all-consuming obsession. Maybe young Barnes did not know it at the time, but his bulldog determination, his persistence in standing back of a single desire, was was destined to mow down all opposition and bring him the opportunity he was seeking. When the opportunity came, it appeared in a different form and from a different direction than Barnes had expected. That is one of the tricks of opportunity. It has a sly habit of slipping in by the back door, and often it comes disguised in the form of misfortune or temporary defeat. Perhaps this is why so many fail to recognize opportunity. Mr. Edison had just perfected a new office device known at that time as the Edison dictating machine, now the Ediphone. His salesmen were not enthusiastic over the machine. They did not believe it could be sold without great effort. Barnes saw his opportunity. It had crawled in quietly, hidden in a queer-looking machine which interested no one but Barnes and the inventor. Barnes knew he could sell the Edison dictating machine. He suggested this to Edison and promptly got his chance. He did sell the machine. In fact, he sold it so successfully that Edison gave him a contract to distribute and market it all over the nation. Out of that business association grew the slogan, made by Edison and installed by Barnes. The business alliance had been in operation for more than 30 years. Out of it, Barnes had made himself rich in money, but he has done something infinitely greater. He has proved that one really may think and grow rich. How much actual cash that original desire of Barnes has been worth to him, I have no way of knowing. Perhaps it has brought him $2 or $3 million, but the amount, whatever it is, becomes insignificant when compared with the greater asset he acquired in the form to definite knowledge that an intangible impulse of thought can be transmuted into its physical counterpart by the application of known principles. Barnes literally thought himself into partnership with the great Edison. He thought himself into a fortune. He had nothing to start with except the capacity to know what he wanted and the determination to stand by that desire until he realized it. He had no money to begin with. He had but little education. He had no influence, but he did have initiative, faith, and the will to win. With these intangible forces, he made himself number one man with the greatest inventor who ever lived. Now, let us look at a different situation and study a man who had plenty of tangible evidence of riches, but lost it because he stopped 3 feet short of the goal he was seeking.
Let's look at a different situation next time. But now let's stop here because we read and learned a lot of information today. Zoe, thank you very much for your reading. Thank you. And any question, any comments from anybody? I'm going to put recording of this webinar on my YouTube channel so you would be able to review this information again. Anybody? Zoe, please go ahead.
I know that there's a store, bookstore, Barnes and Nobles. I don't know whether it's his business or maybe not. It's interesting.
I don't know. I don't think so. It's a different person, I
But
guess.
this first story is very interesting because when it's like an example when you start almost with nothing, but a huge desire to do it.
Absolutely, yes. But I will read next
And
time.
never give up, never give up.
Never ever give up. That's correct. Okay, I have surprise for everybody. Let me share my screen with you and I will show you surprise. What do you see on the screen?
Guinness record, world record, 4th of
Okay,
July.
very good. Hey, excellent. Let's watch it.
Here comes the countdown, team. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Happy Independence Day. Let's go.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
There we go. That's it, right? So this was an official Guinness World Records attempt for largest aerial sentence with drones sky elements. It's a new Guinness World Records title. Congratulations.
Okay, I share with you Guinness World Record.
Wow,
Thank you.
amazing. Thank you,
Thank you,
Alex.
readers. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you, Iris. Thank you, Zoe. And thank you, everybody. I'll see you next Monday. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Alex. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.